Well, let's take you to Nigeria now, where troops in a Delta state are attempting to rescue 4 Britons taken hostage by armed militants there. The Times newspaper today in the UK identifying the 4 as missionaries, including a husband and wife, working for a UK-based charity, New Foundations, which provides free medical care to remote areas of the country. Well, it's thought that former Dr. David Donovan and his wife Shirley, along with 2 others, were seized at gunpoint from their lodgings in Burutu. Kidnapping for ransom by armed gangs, of course, is common in parts of Nigeria. In the past few years, a number of foreigners have been kidnapped in the Niger Delta region, which holds most of the country's crude oil, Nigeria's economic mainstay. Well, to look at this in more detail, I'm joined by Africa Affairs expert Jonathan Ofe-Ansah. Hello again, Jonathan. What more do we know then? I gather that the government trying to put together some kind of force to go down into the rivers area and rescue these people, but that alone is very difficult.
No, it's very, very difficult. I understand the group is called, it's a militant group called Karuwe. But not much has been heard from them. And they haven't, come up with any ransom demands or whatever. But these things are not uncommon in that part of Nigeria, where, kidnappings, because of criminality or for political or financial gains, have been very rife. Actually, it came down a bit. It came down after the 2009 amnesty granted by the Goodluck Jonathan government, But, and again, it used to be mainly targeted at expatriate oil workers.
Oh, right.
Yeah, oil, like mostly Shell, Total, and
Chevron. I remember.
Yes, and the rest. But these expatriate oil workers no more operate in those areas. Right, for obvious reasons.
Obvious reasons,
Yeah. So the kidnappers, again, they have resorted to other targets, to press on either their political points, raise, money, or just sheer criminality.
Some of them, some of the groups down there, and there are a lot of them. What happens is that they say they want to take back their heritage. That's the way they put it, by stripping oil and gas exploration and exportation in the Niger Delta. So on one hand, some people would say they're simply thugs. On the other hand, they're saying they're trying to take back their heritage and they're doing this for political purposes.
Yeah,
it's all that in a mix, isn't it?
You see, sometimes I go by the common adage, a hungry man is an angry man. You should visit most parts of the Niger Delta region where most of Nigeria oil it's gotten from. And you can see the appalling conditions in which they live. Most of them are fisher folk, right? And most of the rivers from which they fish are polluted. Okay, they cannot earn any decent living from fishing and so on and so forth. Okay, there is little or no development in those areas. So this gives, though I'm not condoning such activities, it's very heinous, right? But sometimes, the conditions, force, these people to take such actions.
And we're looking here at some of the destruction caused to local communities by crude oil spills. I mean, several groups operating down there in the Niger Delta, like the Niger Creek Warriors, the Niger Delta Redemption Fighters, Niger Delta Green Revolutionaries, etc.,
numerous groups,
And the Foreign Office here, at least in the UK, advising against all travel to those river areas. But I think what happened with these people who've been kidnapped, the particular 4, I think 2 doctors and 2 missionaries as such, they went down there and told no one they were in the area. So it's confused the Nigerian government, because what more can one do? But I think that they've had some suspects appearing in a police station, but they've got no further. But to try and go down there among the rivers and try and rescue people is going to be very difficult.
It is a Herculean task, because the terrain can be very inhospitable, can be very hostile, sometimes. So unless they get, the cooperation, of some local inhabitants, you know, rescuing them would be very difficult, and unless the kidnappers themselves decide to release them.
And there's been no ransom demand as yet, has there?
That's what's baffling. You know, there's no ransom demand, nothing. Even that group, Karowe, you know, it's suspected of, you know, undertaking that kidnapping, but it hasn't been confirmed whether it is actually them or not.
And I mean, I suppose that, I mean, in the past, here we're watching more of the militants here, but in the past, Italians have been kidnapped,
Yes.
French people have been kidnapped, ransoms have been handed over. Sometimes the ransoms aren't talked about by the governments. Suddenly the people are just freed. So I suppose the hope is that these people are not dead, and that some ransom or some contact will be made.
Yeah, more often than not, well, the piece of good news is that more often than not, the victims, you know, the kidnapped victims are not killed. They are eventually released. And you mentioned ransom. Yeah, ransom is paid most of the time. Yeah, but for obvious reasons, they are not disclosed by the government.
Okay, I hope that happens in this particular case. Jonathan, thank you very much once more for coming and spending the time speaking with me.